What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of NASCAR Round the Track with the Riders, featuring myself, SterlingRider, and DukeRider. And before we get into it, two things. First off, I'm sorry, my internet is being really, really bad today. So DukeRider's going to be in frames, like their pictures. So you might see some funny faces. Oh, okay, Discord's being weird. Anyways, Um, and two, it's been a while. We've both been busy. We didn't recap the All-Star race, and we're actually recording over the Coke 600 and races at Charlotte due to schedule conflicts. So, yeah. So,
So
um,
what we're gonna do is we're gonna record two episodes this week.
yeah,
One tonight, where we're talking about some news that's happening in the NASCAR world, and then we'll record another one tomorrow night where we'll discuss the truck race and the All Star race from North Wilkesboro, and then we'll move to Charlotte. We'll talk about the Indianapolis 500. We'll talk about the debacle of the Coca-Cola 600 and Larson and his attempt to do the 1100 and how all that went down. We'll talk about that tomorrow night, but we have a lot of news to discuss.
absolutely. It's been a news fest. So this is part one of two going over. This part one will be all news, and then part two will be all racing related. Well, it's all racing related, but the actual races. But really, before we get into the news, there's going to be some changes to the podcast. You're probably really bored at watching two dudes talk about cars going in a circle. So
Hey, they
um,
have right turns too.
this is true. So I'm gonna talk about the future of the podcast real quick. Um, Basically, it's going to start being streamed live on YouTube instead of a recording. I'm going to also try and record it as well. I'm starting to figure out how to record more on the PlayStation itself. So I may get some clips, but basically, Duke Ryder and I will be playing a game where we can discuss everything that's going in the NASCAR world. So that way, if you are that bored, there's at least something to watch, keep you entertained. But if you just want to continue to listen, setting your phone down or iPad, whatever, and just turning us on to listen, that's fine as well. We appreciate the support. But we just thought there's a lot more put into the recording of the podcast, and my internet is as you know, is not good. So I feel like streaming would be a lot better. So hopefully that's the case. So yeah, that's the future.
And you might actually get to watch us play a game of us driving cars around in a circle
Yeah.
with the occasional right turn.
Yeah. Except with my luck, normally when there's a right turn in the racetrack, I don't do too well. But walk
Oh,
is.
speaking of which, I played NASCAR Heat 5 a little bit. I think I want to say it was yesterday, and I did Sonoma, and it's the Sonoma that they raced in 21.
Yeah.
And man, that's a little 20 and 21. That's a little difficult.
Yeah.
And we're going to Sonoma in a couple weeks, so it's a different. They went back to the old track that they used in the 90s and early 2000s, really up to 2020. But uh, on that note, mention Sonoma. Sonoma is the last race on Fox. Praise God, we're going to NBC
Yes.
because and we're gonna well this in my opinion kind of falls into the news because of the new media situation that starts in 2025. We've got the Coca-Cola 600. It's been announced this past week that the Coca-Cola 600 will be the first race on Amazon, and I am looking forward to that.
Oh, definitely. I think it's going to be a lot better than Fox for sure. Fox just isn't performing. Um, so I'm looking forward to Amazon taking over and seeing what they'll do with their broadcasting, and I'm pretty confident it'll be a lot better than Fox. So I look forward to seeing how well they do.
So what do you think? What do you think about they announced in the past couple of weeks that they're going to do that bracket challenge with the 32, and that you're going to use the final 3 races of the Amazon, the 5 Amazon races to set the bracket, and then the 5 races on TNT will be the bracket, and then the winner of the bracket wins. What is it? $1 million?
It's $1 million.
I mean, this kind of reminds me of the old Winston Million, but man, I think this is going to be, it's going to bring a lot of new eyes to the sport. And I believe we talked about this a little bit in the last podcast, but it's going to bring new eyes on the sport. But are you going to participate in the Denny Hamlin bracket challenge this year?
Probably not, because I haven't really looked into it.
Yeah, I'm gonna set it up. You got till the green flag on Sunday at Gateway to set it up. So I'm gonna look into it in the next couple of days. They've already got it's already out. You can go look at it. I'm not really sure the seating, and I'm not sure how they did the seating, but I'm gonna fill mine out, and they got some pretty cool prizes, some coolers and some swag and stuff like that they're going to be giving away. So I'm actually going to participate this year. I didn't last year just because it was kind of a new thing, but I'm going to participate this year and see. See how well the bracket goes. I mean, the perfect bracket to me is going to be almost as impossible as, even though there's only 32 drivers, the perfect bracket is going to be almost as hard to predict as maybe even the NCAA March Madness tournament bracket. Because, I mean, all it takes is one flat tire. I mean, like Blaney had in the Coca-Cola 600 that puts him out of the race, and boom, your bracket's busted.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
Or one bad pit stop even.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that could throw into it. That's actually how I was gonna say, it's like NASCAR took the March Madness bracket challenge, and put it in their own sports, and Denny Hamlin's been kind of doing his like own version of that, and NASCAR picked up on what Denny was doing and put more of a competition view on it with the winner getting $1 million. So I think it'll be really entertaining. I think it's awesome to have in the middle, kind of in the middle of the season, and I think I said last time we were talking about it, to me, it's kind of like an upgraded version of the Dash for Cash. Not as many chances to do it because it's a bracket like Xfinity has, but it's definitely a good opportunity to kind of get these drivers to maybe be even more aggressive, or more risk maneuvers. For them to continue on in the bracket. So I think it'll do great. So I look really forward to it.
What I'm interested in is how is NASCAR going to get the fans involved? I know this is a thing that's being set up for those that like to do sports betting and stuff like that, but are they gonna have it like the NCAA has it, where we can fill out our brackets, and then like whoever has the best bracket or whatever is going to be eligible to win a prize from NASCAR? Are they going to offer fans the opportunity to participate at all? I'm curious as to how that's going to work. They have not announced that yet, but I mean, there's still plenty of time between now and then for them to work that out. But I really hope they give the fans an opportunity for us to participate and maybe even win some merchandise or something.
Yeah, I'm sure they're thinking of ideas of like kind of how Denny does his bracket with prizes from maybe the big sponsors like Coke and Monster Energy and all the other sponsors of the Cup Series, maybe like a Coke cooler or some swag, or I would say Coke diecast, but Coke doesn't like their diecast being made for some reason, which is a real bummer. But you know, merch, swag, you know, whatever. Yeah, I
Hey,
see where it comes down.
how about the perfect bracket gets one of every team's, you don't, because I know teams have multiple paint schemes, but one of every team's 1/24 scale diecast given to them by NASCAR.
That would actually, I think that would be really cool for perfect bracket. Yeah, that's
A
something.
perfect bracket.
I mean, because it's going to be rare to even get that perfect bracket. So if you get I think that would be a great idea. That would have to be NASCAR kind of talking to Lionel about that, or maybe even the teams. I'm sure the teams would 100% go for it. It's Lionel I'd kind of question with that.
Well,
But
all NASCAR has to do, NASCAR pays Lionel to buy the diecasts and send it to the fan that wins. I mean,
that's true. Um,
and then
uh,
maybe even have a special diecast made. Have Lionel make it, because they do these special diecasts all the time. You know, like they did for like Hendrick's 40th anniversary. They did it for Stuart Haas's 10th anniversary. They do it every year for the Hall of Fame. So get Lionel to design a special diecast to go with that. You know, that says something about a perfect bracket.
yeah, that would be really, really cool. So, hey, NASCAR.
Just don't, just you know, if they put a year on it, because I mean, let's say it's 2025, nobody has a perfect bracket, but then 2026 somebody gets that perfect bracket. They're not going to want to actually produce that car until we know whether there's going to be a perfect bracket or not, because otherwise somebody's going to be sitting around with a 2025 diecast that nobody gets.
No, I understand that. So
But
at
it
least
could
kind
just
of
go in
have,
Lionel's faces.
yeah, at least have like the design for it made up. I know, you know, manufacturing something like that might take a while, but at least have the design ready. That way it doesn't take as long with it. So,
Yeah. All right. Anyway, more news.
so, um, really before, so I have something in the notes here before we get into all the silly season news. Of course, this is kind of part of it. I want to talk about Dale Jr. And some news that I came across. I didn't just come across it; I saw it all over Twitter actually, and I've also I also got a message about it from my grandmother about him basically being able to step up, and there's talks about him being able to take ownership of the number 8. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Teresa and DEI's hold on the stylized 8 from the. I wish I would have grabbed one of my number 8 diecasts before I came in here. But anyway, their ownership of that trademark is up on June 1st. June 2nd, basically goes up for grab. Well, Dale Jr.'s properties has requested for that trademark. So, and the reason that Teresa's probably going to lose that trademark font for the 8 and the 1 and the 15 is because she's not selling any merchandise with that stuff, with that on there. So because she's not selling anything, she's not making any money, she's not using them at all, and in the public sector. So she's going to lose the trademarks on that, because now if she shows up this Friday to court with a whole bunch of merchandise that DEI is going to release, she might be able to keep that trademark, but most likely she's not going to do that, because in order to get that merchandise manufactured, she would have to spend a whole lot of money. Plus, I believe that Dale Jr. and his relationship with Budweiser, he would be able to get some Budweiser merchandise made even diecast. I believe Junior could get some. Lionel's been doing a lot of historical diecast.
Mm-hmm.
If Dale Jr. gets the number 8, the stylized number 8, I believe that Dale Jr.'s relationship with Budweiser will allow for these diecasts to be made, as well as other merchandise. I believe we could do the same thing for the one car that they ran, that Earnhardt started DEI with Steve Park and Pennzoil. We could get some old Pennzoil cars made. We could get maybe some old Bass Pro Shops cars made from when Martin Truex was driving for the team. We could get some Napa cars made from some throwback. We could get a 2001 Daytona 500 win car for Napa car, because Dale Jr. also has a relationship with Napa through Hendrick Motorsports. So, of course, Dale Jr. has a relationship with Bass Pro because Bass Pro sponsors him in the Cars Tour. So, all of these trademarks. Now, I know he's only applied for the number 8, but why not go for the 1 and the 15 too, and make that merchandise available to the fans. And of course, we see what Dale Jr. has done with Junior Motorsports and all the things that they have over there, and how widely popular it is. Try to get your hands on an autographed Noah Gragson Daytona win from 2020. If you don't have one, good luck. Hope you got a lot of money. They are expensive. Fortunately, I have one that's autographed. So, but Dale Jr. getting this it's almost like a divorced couple getting remarried.
That's an interesting way to put it, but from a fan's perspective, I grew up watching this 8 font. Dale Jr. I never really watched NASCAR, but I knew of Dale Jr. I knew of his car. I mean, I knew of Dale Earnhardt Sr. as well. But I knew the fonts of the numbers. Once I saw that font, I instantly knew the driver. So I think from a fan's perspective, if Dale Jr. gets the 8 trademark font, it's really going to make the fans super. Yep, see, exactly. It's going to make the fans super happy. Just because we, with everything you just said, I see it going. I mean, I see the sponsors saying something, or even Junior going to the sponsors and saying something. I see it going either way, to get some merchandise or even some like daily sponsorship. Of course, you still got Bass Pro Shops, so they might jump on something like that. Budweiser might come in and say, hey, let me sponsor you so we can do stuff like this, and then not only make stuff for today, but also make those 2000s cars back from when they were ran. So there's a lot I think that would be beneficial if Junior is able to get this trademarking, and as a fan, I hope he does. Originally, this
and that 8 Xfinity car that he owns would look gorgeous with that font.
Absolutely. So another thing I'm gonna get into here in a minute. I'm actually looking at a custom car, but I'll get to that in a minute. But I'm gonna just real quick. I'm gonna say as of. Actually, never mind, because I done forgot. I'm sorry. You cut me off and I forgot.
Sorry.
Oh, well. Must not have been
Sorry.
important. But anyways, like I said, as from a fan's perspective, it's going to be amazing. Oh, I was going to say, Dale Sr.'s original plan was for Junior to take this on. So it's kind of going back to how it should be. So that's what I was going to say.
And if Junior eventually gets a charter to go racing in the Cup Series, him and Childress would work. I'm sure him and Childress would work out a deal for him to get that 8.
Absolutely.
I would see if Junior. I would see Junior running 2 teams, and he would run the 8 and the 88.
Mm-hmm.
And then Childress would probably switch back to the 31 or 33 or maybe even the 29, depending. But um, honestly, there has been rumors swirling. Um, Again, these are just rumors that I've heard that I've seen on Twitter. I don't know. I don't know if there's any truth to them, but there's been a few people mention Childress getting one of the charters from Stuart Haas that we're going to talk about in a minute. And there's been rumors of Dale Jr. buying into that.
Oh.
That third Childress team, which, would bring that font to Childress. So we would have that 3 font and that 8 font reunited, because the 8 font was based off of Childress's 3 font. Thank God Teresa didn't have that. That was a Childress font.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we would have had a funky looking number 3, and we wouldn't have gotten any. And they're starting to produce some Earnhardt cars again, thank God. So,
which is awesome.
I don't know if there's any truth to that. Kelly Earnhardt Miller, Dale Jr.'s sister, kind of came out today and was like, it's not happening. So, there's no, they're not in the charter discussion, but hopefully someday they are in the charter discussion. They have the 8 and they'll be able to put it on the track. And it will be, when that happens, it will be, like you said, full circle from what Dale Sr. planned to have happen.
Yeah, and I think that would be absolutely amazing. So I'm gonna kind of go off of the news real quick, kind of continue talking about this. On my Twitter, I reposted it. Shout out to Micah. I can't say your Gingrich. I'm sorry if I butchered that. Designs. He tweeted out that he heard Junior is trying to get the rights to the old DEI number 8, and wonder if this means we could see the iconic number font return to NASCAR. Of course, we just basically talked about. And then he added on with this: could we also see a new driver behind the wheel of the number 8? And he has tagged here. I go back to him again. Our Truck Series favorite, Raja Caruth. I'm just reading the tweet.
See, I haven't. I must have missed that, but Kyle Busch is not going anywhere.
Well, I figured that was gonna be the thing.
He's got now. Rumor has it that Childress is, again, like I mentioned, buying one of the charters, but he's going to restart the 33 car. But I don't see Kyle Busch going anywhere. If he has the typical contract, he's got a 3-year contract, which means next year will be a contract year for him. Now, if he doesn't perform this year and he doesn't perform next year, it is a good possibility that Kyle goes to another team. There's a possibility Kyle Busch could go to 23XI. I mean,
Oh boy.
We don't know. Kyle still has a lot of time left to race cars. However, watching Kyle all these years, Kyle's not been competitive this year. If he finishes out the year not competitive, which, that's some more news that we'll get into here in a minute. If he finishes out this year not competitive, he might not want to re-up with Childress after next year. If he is on a 3-year deal, because Childress can't put competitive cars out on the track. So, but then again, where does he go? Who's competitive? JGR. He's not going to go back to JGR. JGR's full. Rick Hendrick he's full. And even if he's not full, he's got drivers in the pipeline that'll fill him up.
Yeah.
So, what does Kyle Busch do? I don't know. I think, but he's not going anywhere. As long as he performs, he's not going anywhere anytime soon.
All right. No, I agree. I was just reading the tweet. It'd be a
I
lovely
mean,
dream come true, but I was just reading the tweet.
could you see Kyle going to Penske? I mean, Kyle Busch and Joey Logano on the same team.
No.
That would be the most hated team ever in the history of motorsports.
And then I'd feel bad for Ryan Blaney because I like Blaney.
Right? I mean, he's already stuck in the middle with Cindric and Logano. Neither one have a very good, are very popular.
Oh.
So yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that with the All-Star race with Logano for sure. So, anyways, what do you want to talk about next? I guess we could talk
Well,
about SHR. I got the notes here.
You've got this Hendrick Dynasty on here. You put that on there. I'm trying to figure out what you're talking about there.
Oh. I don't know what my headphones just did. Stand by.
I can hear you.
Huh?
I can hear you.
Okay, well, if you, I've turned ANC mode on. I don't even know what that is. I'm not that smart. I can hear you more clearly now. So I don't know. So Hendrick Dynasty. So everyone knows what a dynasty is. It's a section of a career that you go all out. I mean, you had, most of them they compared to the Yankees, the Bulls, and the Lakers. The Lakers in the 80s, the Bulls in the 90s, and then the Yankees 2000s. Basically, they were talking about the Hendrick dynasty, kind of comparing to them as Hendrick is the top of the dynasty scoreboard because the Lakers dynasty, with Magic Johnson only lasted so long. The Bulls dynasty with Michael Jordan only lasted so long. The Yankees dynasty only lasted so long. But they were talking about, and it's kind of a tribute to Hendrick's 40th anniversary, how Hendrick has continued their dynasty and their legacy for these 40 years, which is a huge accomplishment. So I just kind of want to throw that in there, as a Hendrick Motorsports fan, and because it kind of made sense that 40 years to still be a championship contending team for pretty much those whole 40 years is a huge deal, with multiple championships thrown into the 40 years. So I just wanted to throw that in, kind of thank them for the and congratulate them for the 40 years they've been doing this.
Yeah, and that is, like you said, that's unbelievable. Right now they have, I would say, at least 3 championship contending drivers. They've got 2 of those drivers already have championships. They've got the most championships in NASCAR history for a single team. And they'll continue to build on that legacy even after Rick Hendrick is gone. Jeff Gordon and the rest of the ownership group will carry that legacy and that dynasty into, for decades to come. Something you don't see in sports. I mean, you go back, you look at the Childress. Childress had a dynasty back in the 80s and the 90s. And then Hendrick stepped up and boom. Can you say Joe Gibbs has a dynasty? There was a few years there where they were dominant, but they weren't winning everything. I mean, because you also had Stuart Haas, you had Hendrick Racing, Hendrick Motorsports that were winning a lot of races. You had Furniture Row Motorsports with Martin Truex. It was winning a lot of races. With the Joe Gibbs building up, Joe Gibbs was winning a lot of races. They were winning championships, but they weren't winning championship after championship after championship after championship. Same thing with Penske. Penske's won championships, but they've been hit and miss when they've won their championships. I mean, the only 2 championships in the history of Penske that are back-to-back was 22 and 23. But you've got Hendrick has multiple drivers that have won multiple championships, and Chase Elliott can win multiple championships. Kyle Larson can win multiple championships. I believe William Byron is a multi-championship driver. especially if they ever change the playoff format where it's not one stupid race at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And it's something you don't see a 40-year dynasty in sports. You don't, because of the people. But Hendrick Motorsports, like you mentioned, has been able to carry this dynasty for 40 years, and I look at to continue. They've had a few off years, but look at their off years. Who was dominating?
Right.
Who, go back to like 2018, 2019. They had off years, but who was dominating? JGR, Furniture Row, um, Kevin Harvick. You had the big three in 2018 with Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, and Martin Truex.
Yep. And then it was
In
stolen by the
2020, you
sleeper.
had, yeah, exactly. And then you had in 2020, you had Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin winning. I mean, they're racing each other for who had the most wins at the end of the season.
Yep.
So yeah, it's unbelievable what Rick Hendrick has been able to do. And this is somebody I hated Hendrick Motorsports. When they were Jeff Gordon and Terry Labonte and whoever they stuck in the 25 car at the time, I hated Hendrick Motorsports. I did not like any of their drivers whatsoever. Jimmy Johnson came along, made me hate him even more. When Mark Martin signed with them in 2009, I had one fan. I was a fan because I was a fan of Mark Martin. Been a fan of Mark Martin for years and years and years. And then they signed. Then they brought in Chase Elliott. Okay, so now I'm a Chase Elliott fan. Of course, they brought in Dale Jr. in 2008, so I moved over with Dale Jr. from DEI. So I had Mark Martin, Dale Jr. there 2008, 2009. They brought in Chase Elliott, but they still had Gordon and Johnson, and Casey Kane, I believe, was in the 5 car at the time. So, but then when they did their whole complete shuffle in 2018, and they brought in William Byron, put him in the 24 car. They put Chase Elliott in the 9 car. It was great.
Yep. I
Um,
agree. So just
and all 4, I know we've talked about Alex Bowman before being on the hot seat, but all 4 of Hendrick Motorsports' current drivers have won races, multiple races. All 4 of them have contended for championships. William Byron was in the Final Four last year. Chase Elliott, like I said, Kyle Larson have both won championships. Given the right equipment, Alex Bowman can be a championship contender as well. So, and they're all 4 young drivers with many, 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 many years ahead in their career. So this dynasty, like I said, could go on for another 40 years. We could be celebrating a Richard Petty style celebration because they're celebrating their 75 years this year. In another 35 years, we could be celebrating a Hendrick 75th anniversary dynasty.
no, absolutely. I 100% agree. Because as you said, we've got all 4 drivers are winning drivers. Like you said, we've talked about Bowman kind of being the sleeper, not really performing, but I mean he's still, especially this season, he's actually been there. He's been in the top 10 for a lot. Of course, that's not winning, but he's had the opportunities. But I could absolutely see it continuing, especially after Rick Hendrick is gone. I mean, you've got Jeff Gordon who will step up and continue. You've got all 4 young drivers who are talented, extremely talented, I would say. I mean, especially with Kyle Larson doing multiple different, styles of racing. Elliott and Byron even will go and do a lot of short track, late models and stuff. So I could absolutely see, 75 years, being pretty much the team to beat from their history and current skills. So talent.
Yeah, I mean we could see an Owen Larson championship for Hendrick Motorsports in 20 years.
Absolutely. I mean, I could see it. I mean, he's pretty good for his age. So he's and I think
Could
that's going to be
could
interesting because we're going to see like
could you
Owen Larson and Keelan Harvick and
could you imagine a Hendrick Motorsports team with Keelan Harvick, Owen Larson, Braxton Bush, and Jamie McMurray's son all on the same team?
no, because I know their
I mean,
fathers.
but I mean, you talk about a dynasty now. Could you imagine what that team, how great that team would be if those, because those four, and the reason I mentioned Jamie McMurray, I can't remember his son's name, because his son's racing a lot too. So, and they're all about the same age, but all four of them right now are winning races. Okay, so they've shown that they have their the talent of their fathers. You put all four of them on the same super team. So you got four super drivers on a super team. Unbeatable.
Absolutely. I mean, we might actually see, the whole team being the championship four if they continue with their current playoff settings. At
I
that
mean, we
low.
could see that, and we could see that this year with Hendrick Motorsports or
Absolutely.
Joe Gibbs.
Yeah. Yes, but I don't want that.
I don't either, but that's beside the point. But
But it's
yeah, so I mean, but it's great to see that. Uh this is being celebrated. NASCAR is celebrating this. Um, and I mean, they've won big races. They won their 40th Daytona 500. They won their 40th anniversary race at Martinsville. Uh, Actually, they finished 1, 2, 3 at their
Yep.
40th anniversary race at Martinsville. So, uh, and let's face it, if they go out and they win the championship in their 40th year, I mean, who would, if there's anybody out there that would be surprised, you're an idiot and you haven't been watching NASCAR for very long.
No, I would agree. So it's just something I saw. I think they played it after once the red flag came out for the 600 from weather. They played it. It was like 5-10 minute video, but I thought it was really cool, so I just wanted to touch on it real quick.
That's awesome.
So
Um, yeah, so let's talk about the charter agreement that still has not been made. Bob Pockrass posted today that the teams received the new charter agreement next year, or yesterday, I'm sorry, to begin next year. Uh, he did say that it looks like that it's not going to be a permanent agreement, but it does extend past the next TV rights deal. So the agreement that NASCAR has offered does extend past 2031. The interesting part of this that I thought was really interesting, when this will lead into our next subject, but there are going to only allow 3 charters per team, with the exception of HMS and JGR, who will be grandfathered in. And I would assume, I could be wrong, but I would assume that if they lose a driver for whatever reason, either one of those teams, they retire, they get let go, whatever, that NASCAR may force them to even give up a charter down the road, maybe not right now. What do you think of the 3? What do you think of the limit of 3 per team?
well, it's I really don't know. I see it. I see it benefiting some teams, but I also see it hurting a lot of teams. Um, Understand HMS JGRs is going to be grandfathered in. At least that's the idea, because they are currently four full teams, and with if the announcement that was made, SHR probably would have been 2, if they were staying, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. My question is, 3 per team. We've got a lot of 2 two car teams that don't perform at a winning championship level. So is letting these 4-car teams go down one and letting these other teams go up one, is that really going to benefit the racing, or is it going to completely make it chaotic? Is kind of my question. Now there's teams like Front Row Motorsports I could see benefiting off of it, because they'll start a new team, they'll grow, and they have that manpower to be to get to that winning and championship team, especially with a driver lineup with these future drivers and current drivers even, because again, like I said, with HHR, we'll get to in a minute. So I could see it helping a team like Front Row, or maybe even Spire, who's also still trying to kind of build to that level. But there's
Spire already has 3 charters.
Yeah, that's exactly my point. So there's teams like Colleague, there's teams like I would say I think 2311 again would I mean they are a championship contending team, so it would benefit them. My question is for them, like, who would go in that third car? And that's actually a question for a lot of these teams. Who's going to go into these, third team?
Yeah, well, and it's the same thing with Trackhouse. Trackhouse gets another charter, but here's the thing: Trackhouse has right now 4 drivers, because they've got Ross Chastain, they've got Daniel Suarez, they've got SVG, and they've got Zane Smith. All right. So you got 4 drivers. Right now they have 2 charters. Rumor has it with the whole SHR thing that we're going to talk about, there's going to be another one available. They're going to pick up one of those. So you still have 4 drivers, 3 teams. Okay. And I've got to say, honestly, because we already know that Michael McDowell is filling the 71 car for Spire Motorsports. So Spire's got their lineup pretty much done. You can probably, I don't see Carson Hocevar and Corey LaJoie going away. They've got Michael McDowell that they're going to bring in. That's going to make that team stronger. That's going to make that team better. All right.
Absolutely.
So say Trackhouse gets a 3rd charter. They start up the 91 team permanent, as a full-time team. They've got Zane Smith and they've got SVG to put in that car. Okay. If I am Justin Marks, I put SVG in that car, and I take Zane Smith and I put him in the Xfinity ride, because he has struggled handily. I mean, he's running terrible. I mean, Carson Hocevar is outrunning him big time. And everybody's up and down. Zane Smith is ready. He gets in the car and he falls apart. Which goes to your other point. You mentioned 2311. Rumor has swirling that Corey Heim, if they get another charter, Corey Heim will go into that because he's ready. Is he? Zane Smith is showing he might not be. Zane Smith ran impressive for Front Row Motorsports the few races that he ran last year. He got in that Spire car, he fell apart. Corey Heim gets in a 2311 car. Is he going to fall apart too? I mean, I don't think they're giving these guys enough time to hone their skills that they need. They should spend a year or two. Even Carson would have benefited from spending a year or two in Xfinity. But I think personally, I think the 3 charter limit is a good idea. I think some way, somehow, they need to get Hendrick and Joe Gibbs down to 3 teams. I could see Martin Truex retiring and Joe Gibbs deciding to sell that 4th charter. Or NASCAR saying, "Hey, you've got a car that's out. Let's go ahead and sell that charter.
Right.
Now Rick Hendrick, that's another story because, like we just talked about, he's got 4 young drivers. He doesn't have anybody close to retiring. Now he may have a driver on the hot seat, but again, Ally loves Alex Bowman. So is Ally willing to let Alex Bowman go someplace else? I don't know. I think it's a good idea as long as, like you mentioned, those teams that are struggling to run up front don't buy a charter and that team run in the back too. Because what good does that do? That does
Right.
not benefit the sport in any way.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna pull something up real quick because I mentioned NASCAR prophecy. Somebody I saw tweeted earlier today. Of course, talking about price
Yeah, I
of
saw this
charters
one.
skyrocketing, but saying that this person personally thinks that Colleague is better off selling both of their Cup charters and focusing on their Xfinity program. They believe that they grew too big too fast and can't keep up with either series because of it. So
I won't disagree with that, but Chris Rice was on Door Broker Clear the other day, and he said that they are not for sale. They're
all
not
right,
going to be for sale anytime soon. So stop talking about it. Chris Rice, who's the president of Colleague Motorsports, said we are not going anywhere. So stop talking about it.
uh, I mean it's just something I saw on Twitter. You know, it's something to conversate on, but I
And
agree.
honestly, they have a partnership with Trackhouse, so that could be a landing spot for Trackhouse's 4th driver. They could put SVG in the 16 car next year full time and put Zane in the 91 car. And that would work out for both teams because
Yep.
Trackhouse would pay SVG, and Colleague would just put the cars on the track. They wouldn't have to pay the driver.
Right. That makes sense. I was gonna kind of spin off of the tweet. I do think they maybe grew too big too fast, but I also think they have drivers that can compete. As we've seen people in the 16 and the Cup Series compete pretty well at super speedways, of course, but still, you got AJ Allmendinger and select other drivers that have been up front for some of these races. So I think they're
Well,
just still trying to.
nothing against Daniel Hemrick, but they should have left Daniel Hemrick in the Xfinity Series and kept AJ in the Cup Series. And instead of running the 16 car as a superstar car, run the 31 car as a superstar car. I think that because I think AJ, his talent level, his understanding of the car is so much better than Daniel has really struggled this year in the 31.
Yeah, I would agree. So
Well, that leads us to the sad news. I wish I had taps on to where I could play it because it is official that SHR has announced that they're closing doors after the 2024 season.
yep.
This rumor's been circulating for a while. The last thing I'd heard before yesterday was that they were going to sell off all 4 charters. And let's just mention this real quick with the charters. SHR has nothing to sell until a charter agreement gets signed. There are no charters for sale until a charter agreement gets signed because there are no charters. So just to mention that. But I had heard that SHR was selling off their charters, but they were keeping the Xfinity team. News that came out yesterday, they're just shutting the whole NASCAR program down. This is heartbreaking. There's hundreds of employees that work over there that now have to look for jobs. They've got 4 drivers, 4 crew chiefs over there that have to find jobs.
Technically
And then if
6
you throw in
if you
the Yeah.
the Xfinity teams.
So, which, we'll get into all of that in a minute, but they've been around for 16 years. This is their 16th year. They lost a ton of sponsorship this past year. With Eric Amarola retired, they lost Smithfield. Kevin Harvick retired, they lost Anheuser-Busch, Hunt Brothers Pizza, Mobile One. For the most part, I mean, Mobile One still does a race or two, but for the most part, they lost Mobile One. Sunny D cut back. Not that they were sponsoring a whole bunch to begin with, but they have cut back. They lost a ton of all of the associate sponsors that Harvick had with him his whole career. They lost them. I mean, they lost a ton of money in the off season this past year with sponsorship. I don't think that was the problem though. They have talented drivers. They have talented crew chiefs. I mean, they have the best. I would say the best crew chief in the business is Rodney Childers right now,
Yeah.
or one of the best, top 5 at least, best crew chiefs in the business. But the reason that I believe this happened. Now, I'm not a NASCAR insider. I don't know, but reading between the lines, watching what's happened over the past few years since their decline started at the beginning of 2021. Gene Haas got really involved in his Formula One team. Took a lot of money over to the Formula One side, and was kind of an absentee owner. Tony Stewart met his wife, started a drag team, started Super SRX, started his All Star Circuit of Champions sprint car series, or bought it anyway. He's since sold both of those entities, but he does still have the drag team. He's focused on being a drag an NHRA driver right now. So he wasn't invested. Plus, NASCAR kind of ticked Tony off when they took Eldora off the truck schedule, and started running Bristol Dirt instead of Eldora. Kind of ticked Tony off. Some other decisions that NASCAR's made has kind of ticked Tony off. So Tony's been kind of disconnected from NASCAR, and because of that, I think that had a lot to do with what's going on. I think they both lost interest in it, and unfortunately, because of that, we've got a lot of crew members. We've got 6 drivers, 6 crew chiefs that now have to look for work. As somebody who was an SHR fan from day one, not much of a Ryan Newman fan, but I was a huge Tony Stewart fan. And then, of course, they brought Kevin Harvick in, which was the end-all be-all for me, because wherever Harvick went, I went. Even when they switched to Ford. You remember how heartbroken I was when SHR went from Chevrolet to Ford?
Absolutely.
I mean, like, that was devastating, but it was Harvick, so I went with Harvick. I mean, they brought in Kurt Busch. I was a Kurt Busch fan. And of course, you had Danica, which, I didn't dislike Danica, but she was a moving chicane
Yeah.
in most races. But then they brought Eric Amarola in. They put him in the 10 car. Tony retired. They put Clint Boyer in that 14 car. Still had a solid team. The 41 car has been in limbo really since Kurt got out of the car, because you had Daniel Suarez for a year. Then you had Cole Custer for a couple years. Then you had Ryan Preece, who's struggled. But yeah, it is, in my opinion, it's heartbreaking that this is happening. that you see a team that not that long ago was the most dominant team on the circuit. Don't have the championships to show for it, but has the wins to show for it.
No, I would agree. I mean, it's a team that pretty much did build from the ground up and started off with a bang. You know, Tony Stewart, pairing up with Gene Haas and building this team, starting with 2 cars and up to 4, with many talented drivers. I would still say they have talented drivers now. So it's heartbreaking to see it kind of fall apart. Yeah, I really don't know. It gets you in a sad feeling. So I don't know. I know a lot of the drivers that have voiced, how they feel as well. Josh Berry, Chase Briscoe. Haven't seen anything from Ryan Preece or Noah Gragson, but I know Noah for sure is heartbroken. This was kind of a big opportunity for him with Stuart Haas, and I'm sure Ryan Preece is broken too, because like you said, you've got all these drivers and crew chiefs that now have to find another place to basically go and call home if they can build those relationships at another team or anything. So I wouldn't say unexpected.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt you, but I just remember reading this. Somebody threw out there on Twitter that they would not be surprised to see Tony Stewart undercut the price of the 4th charter to Dale Jr., sell it to him real cheap to kind of have the last laugh. I mean, I don't see that happening, but I mean, that'd be kind of cool.
It would be amazing to see, and honestly, I would congratulate Tony for doing that, because Dale Jr.'s been trying to get his hands on a NASCAR Cup charter for a while now, and if Tony's like, hey, this team's going bye-bye, and pretty much to Junior's like, here you go, you deserve this, I would congratulate, I would say Tony just walked out with a big smile on his face, knowing that his team may be done, but another team is now going to begin. So
and I think it would be a big middle finger to Gene Haas and to NASCAR. On Tony's part,
would agree absolutely, and you may not see it happening, but I absolutely see Tony doing it. If somebody gave him the idea, or if Junior even asked about it, I absolutely seeing it. So that'd make me happy. I think Junior deserves a charter, but that's me. So
let's talk about the charters. Front Row Motorsports has already put out that they're getting one of the charters. Yep. It's believed Trackhouse is getting one of the charters, and 2311 is getting one of the charters. We've kind of already mentioned those teams. Other teams, of course, we've mentioned Junior Motorsports. Everybody, including Kelly Earnhardt Miller, has said that they're out. I really like the idea that we just talked about, Tony basically giving Junior the charter. Oh, that would be cool. But the other rumor that has really kind of sparked a lot of talk is Richard Childress getting that 4th charter. With that, these are the driver rumors that I've heard. I have heard Chase Briscoe to the 21 car.
Mm-hmm.
I have heard Noah Gragson to Richard Childress in the 33 car.
Mm-hmm.
If Childress is the other one, of course, we already know Trackhouse. We already know who their drivers are going to be.
Yep.
At least we know they have 4 drivers. So Front Row Motorsports, rumor has it Josh Berry is going over there, and Cole Custer is going over there to fill their 2 seats, which leaves Harrison Burton out of the 21. That leaves Ryan Preece without a ride. And that leaves Riley Herbst without a ride. Now, I have heard Riley Herbst maybe to the 15 Rick Rare Racing car.
Mm-hmm.
But this SHR thing has really, because now we've got 6 drivers out there in the driver pool that we didn't know were going to be out there. But you've got 6 drivers in the driver pool. You've got 4 charters available. There are some seats, that we did mention, but that leaves, like I said, that leaves Ryan Preece and Harrison Burton. What do they do? Where do they go?
Well,
I've heard people talk about Xfinity, them 2 going back to Xfinity. But where do they go in Xfinity? We've got 2 Xfinity teams shutting down too.
Yep, that is true. So I can't exactly say where Harrison would go. But something I see, so I reposted. This was actually a thought, but everything you just said was pretty much on this tweet. Daniel Create, if I said that right, just NASCAR follower here. What he thought where the drivers would line up. So everyone you just said is exactly as he had it. Briscoe 21, Gregson 33 with RCR, Barry and Custer to front row, and Herbst possibly to the 15 with Rick Ware. He doesn't have Harrison from Briscoe taking his spot, but he has Ryan Preece Xfinity or modified. So I would say it's more likely Preece goes back to the modified before Xfinity, just because of Xfinity's pretty much filled up roster-wise as well.
Well, and now the Chase Briscoe rumors they started about the same time the whole SHR shutting down rumors started. And that's coming from people that are in the garage. So that's something that, because because we've talked about for a while that SHR was selling 2 charters. If you remember, we talked about who stays and who goes. So, and Chase Briscoe was one of the ones I believe we said stayed. It was him, and then it was between Josh Berry and Noah Gragson. The thing about that is Harrison, and again, nothing against Harrison. Harrison won truck races. He won Xfinity races. He got into the Cup Series with the Wood Brothers when the Wood Brothers were on the downturn. Has not run near what Matt DiBenedetto ran in that car, and not even really what Paul Menard ran in that car. But again, so we mentioned Corey Heim going to 2311, so that leaves the truck open for the 11 team in the truck series. Is that where Harrison goes?
I don't know. Possible, but at the same time, there's a lot of other drivers that could also fill that spot.
And there's another team that we've not mentioned that could be in, and I have not seen anything about this team, but they are fielding 3 cars in select races this year, and that's Legacy Motor Club. What if they go for a charter? Who do they get? Do they bring Harrison Burton back into the Toyota camp in the Cup Series to drive that 3rd Legacy Motor Club car? there's silly season this year is going to be unlike any silly season we have seen in quite a while. I have not seen this many dominoes to fall that had to fall in a long time.
No, I would absolutely agree. I mean, it's the last time we saw a team shut down. It was Furniture Row, and after the
Well, it was
2018 season.
Levine. The No, it was Levine Family Racing and Germain, because those were the two teams that started 2311.
Oh yeah.
Those two charters.
Well,
But still, I mean, they weren't front runners like Furniture Row and
right,
SHR.
right. So, that there was only just a asking of who, not really who's, just who, not who's going where, who's doing what team's going, doing what. There's a lot more questions in effect that this time than there is, from those previous times. So there's definitely a lot of news coming our way. We've trying to figure out where these 6 drivers will go, trying to figure out what in the world is going on with the charters. So, I mean, the charter, we're still waiting on the charter agreement.
I'll tell you the two drivers that this really gets to me the most is Josh Berry and Noah Gragson, because they came in with high hopes. They came in with the hopes that they were going to reestablish this team alongside Ryan Preece and Chase Briscoe as one of the big 3, big 4 teams. Uh, um, they both came in, I believe, on multi. I know Josh Berry was a multi-year contract. I don't know about Noah Gragson, but they came in hoping to make SHR their home for a long time. And here they are. We're not even halfway through the season. And on Kevin Harvick's Happy Harvick podcast, he said we went from forever to I can't even remember what it was. But anyway, we went from forever to for sale in 6 months.
Yep.
Uh, that is it's when you have drivers, and we can't forget about the people that work at the shop, the people that work in the office, the people that work on the race team, the truck drivers, the mechanics, the all of those people. They're going to lose their job, but at the same time, the best of the best of those are going to land on their feet. Where they're going to land on their feet, nobody knows. They don't even know at this time. Um, so I mean, Chris Rice said, "Hey, he said on DBC the other day, hey, you guys at SHR that are losing your job, call us. We are looking for people. We want to get faster. We want to get stronger as a team. You guys have won races. We want you on our team." You can bet Trackhouse is going to be calling these guys. Front Row Motorsports is going to be calling these guys. 2311 is going to be calling these guys. Richard Childress is going to be calling. Even if Richard doesn't get the charter, he's going to be calling these guys. Brad Keselowski is going to be calling these guys. Maybe even Roger Penske is going to be calling some of these guys, because they are championship winning teams. They are race winning teams, race winning mechanics. Even the office personnel is race winning office personnel. I mean, the secretary or the receptionist at the front desk probably has a championship ring. You know, so they're going to land on their feet. The crew chiefs, Rodney Childress, without a shadow of a doubt, is going to land a job.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I'd like to see Rodney Childers land. I'd like to see Rodney Childers be the third in the Amazon TNT booth. I would. I'd love to see Rodney Childers land there. I don't think he will. I think he's going to continue to be a crew chief. But if you're a NASCAR team out there, I don't care if you have, especially these guys that are going to be buying these charters. How do you not call Rodney Childers and say, okay, we're buying an SHR charter. We want you to come with that charter. And rumor has it that him and Josh Berry are going together wherever they go.
And I could absolutely see that because Josh Berry and Rodney have built such a strong relationship, not with just NASCAR, but working together in the Cars Tour and with a lot of other racing, events. I could absolutely see them to basically, if you don't want the other one, you don't get either of them. So I could see them both being like that. Absolutely. But why wouldn't you want, Rodney? If you want Josh, why wouldn't you want Rodney? Or if you want Rodney, why wouldn't you want Josh? I mean, Josh has the potential.
Exactly.
Rodney has the experience. You put those two together, you're gonna build a champion, a championship team with those two. So,
and I would almost go the same route with Noah Gragson and Drew Blickensderfer for the work that they've done with that 10 car this year. I would almost say the same thing. Wherever Noah goes, Drew should go with him.
I agree. I mean, it's the same thing there as well. So the question just is where.
Yep, and again, all this could be absolutely null and void is null and void until the charter deal gets, because if the charter deal doesn't get done, which it will, but let's just devil's advocate, the charter deal doesn't get done, SHR has nothing to sell. They've got car pieces and car parts that they have to give back to NASCAR. They've got engines they have to give back to Ford. They've got nothing to sell. I mean, back with the old car, at least they had parts and pieces and stuff like that to sell. I mean, they'll have a building and some equipment to sell, but that's pretty much it. So the charter deal has to get done in order for any of this to happen. And this just, I don't know. This is the biggest story that we've had in several years. And this is the first of many. This is the first domino to fall that's going to cause a whole lot of other dominoes to fall. Some dominoes that we didn't even know were standing up are going to have to fall because of this.
Yeah, definitely. So there's a ton coming, news related from this domino effect. So the best we can do is just stay on top of it. So
yeah, and we'll see where it goes. I think, and I don't. But the thing is, like I said, until the charter, which I think the charter agreement is closer now than it has been ever been. Denny said that they're probably a month out, probably from getting this signed. But as soon as that charter domino falls, I think all the rest of everything else is going to be in place to fall. I think we may even know by then who's getting the charters, where the drivers are going. We may know all of that by then, but we can know it all. But until that charter domino falls, nothing's going to go anywhere. But once that charter domino falls, I think they're all going to fall, and they're all going to fall rather quickly.
yeah.
So once we get to the playoffs, I hope when we get to the playoffs, the only story we're talking about is the playoffs in all three series. I hope those are the only stories that we're talking about. But let's go to, and I'm going to save the news for the Ricky Stenhouse fine and the Austin Hill fine for the next podcast for when we talk about the actual races. But yeah, I'm gonna let you talk about these Roval road course changes because, well, I'm just gonna let you talk about it, and then I'll give. I don't like it.
So
I see the point, but I don't like it.
it's probably just me being blind, but from what I saw very little change. Um, However, it's enough to make it, make that whole race come out differently.
Well,
Um,
they took out that big sweeping curve in the infield
mhm,
and made it to where it's like a hairpin to where it's like a paperclip
right.
turn.
And
Um, which is
I don't
supposed to create more passing, but I don't know.
I don't think so. I think it was a bad
I
idea.
say get rid of the Roval altogether, but that's just that's
I really don't know. I mean, I think they should do away with the Roval all in all, which is probably shocking for me to say because my favorite driver is pretty good at the Roval, but it's not a real road course. Um, if
and
you
we've
want
got if we want to go to a road course, we've got a million road courses. We could go back
to,
to Road America.
yep,
Um, we could go to Road Atlanta. We could go back to Ohio. Uh, I forget the name of that racetrack up there, but anyway, heck, we could go to Canada and
yeah,
race at
exactly.
Canadian Tire. They're already talking about going to Mexico. So let's hit all three countries in North America and put the fall Charlotte race back on the oval.
Yep, I would agree. I would love to see Cup at Canadian Tire. I think that would be an amazing race. I absolutely love the truck race. So,
Oh, I miss it. That and Eldora, Canadian Tire and Eldora, I miss those truck races.
those are
I
the
miss them.
two most entertaining truck races I have watched. And they're still my favorites to play on NASCAR Heat 5. Like, I will happily go run both of those courses. Of course, Eldora is dirt, so of course I like dirt. But Canadian Tire it's got some tricky spots, but once you understand what you're doing, it's pretty simple. And it's a lot of fun. So yeah. um. So
All right, so that's our news. Um, long show for just news, but the Michael McDowell domino was a domino, but it wasn't a. It was a shocking domino, but it wasn't a big domino. But this SHR situation, it's a whole lot bigger than we thought it was going to be. I mean, the
yeah,
whole thing is just it's the biggest domino to fall, man. I'm gonna say in history, because when we look at the teams that have shut down, they've been 1-2 car teams at the most. A lot of teams haven't shut down, they've merged with other teams. uh this is a 4-car cup team, 2-car Xfinity team, just completely shutting its doors. This has to be the biggest domino in the history of NASCAR silly season to fall.
yeah, I would agree. So
This is like the bookshelf falling on the dominoes laid up on the dominoes are set up on the floor and somebody pushes the bookshelf over.
that's one way to put it. Yeah, definitely. So I mean, I still feel like And I don't even think that, the bookshelf falling on the dominoes really has made the dominoes start falling, as we still got that charter agreement to fall over. I think once that falls, we're going to have every other domino just start falling in place. So I look forward to seeing what happens. Sad news, very sad news with Stewart Haas Racing, but
and we didn't even touch on the sponsors and where the sponsors go.
yeah, exactly. I mean, they've got big time sponsors with all 4 drivers. So, well, 3 drivers. Well, 5 drivers.
Yeah, because Haas is pretty
Xfinity.
much.
Yeah, Haas kind of puts the 41 on track with his own money.
And same thing with the 00 in Xfinity.
Yeah,
pretty much the same thing.
But there's still a lot. There's Monster, there's Bass Pro, there's Overstock, there's Harrison's, there's Sunny D, there's
Mahindra
with Briscoe. So there's a lot of, and Mahindra. I know Mahindra does a lot for the 14 team, because there's commercials with Tony Stewart and Chase Briscoe in them, with the car and a tractor. Like, you can't get any better than that. So.
That's redneck heavy right there.
Absolutely. That is my dreamland.
The only thing missing would be Gene Haas riding in on a horse.
Yes. So,
but you'd have to pry him out of the F1 shop first.
Good luck.
Right.
So,
but yep, that's all the news, really. I mean, we got some more racing news, but there's no point in talking about it till we talk about the races.
Yep. So that's part 1 of part 2. So we'll have part 2 for y'all as well, and the next upload. I'm gonna try and get this one up as quickly as possible. So I do apologize again. As you saw, Duke Ryder constantly making different faces or whatever, just because of the laggy internet. But at least the audio is good, so you got to hear everything. I'd rather have a laggy camera over a laggy microphone with audio. So, yeah. And like we said, after part 2, we'll go to streaming online, on YouTube with playing games, to give you some more entertainment, where you can also tune in on the news and the race recaps, and I don't know, I'll just wreck half the field. Well, I wouldn't say we'd wreck half the field. We're actually both pretty good at NASCAR, so
as long as we're not on a road course. If we're on a road course, a 10-lap race turns into a 30-lap race because people are always wrecking or getting in front of us, and we're spinning them out. So
Jefferson, turn 1 with the late
we
models.
do like what, 30 overtime finishes in most of those.
Jefferson's supposed to be like 14 laps. I think we got up to like 58 at one point.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
overtimes we had. But it'll make it more entertaining. It's like, another yellow, whoopee.
Well, I hope they take that tracks like that and they put them on the new iRacing console game that we're going to get next year. Because those tracks, I know they're fantasy tracks, they don't exist, but they're fun. Kind of like Dodge Raceway Stadium was on the old EA Sports. The little tiny bull ring where you pitted under the stands. Those are the type of race tracks that. And
then you had.
I love to play on those video games.
The Old Spice Boulder, was it Boulder Hill? I don't remember. On like.
The Old Spice, the road course.
Yeah, the road course on 06.
Yeah, that was cool. I love that track too.
If you want to go back to the good old days, here you go. This is a NASCAR game you need. All right. I still play this to this day. NASCAR Heat 5 is really good too, but NASCAR 06, I want them to, and I think iRacing pretty much will have a lot of what '06 has. I just want them to take this game and give me a current roster and current graphics, and I will be the happiest gamer in the world.
Yes, I mean, I still, I'm like you. I still play that. Um, it's fun. It's hard, but it's fun. And hey, the drivers got into fights in the garage.
Yep.
So it's realistic too.
Pixelated dudes pushing each other in a garage with pixelated cars in the background. So
Yeah,
it's amazing. So I look really, really forward to iRacing's console game coming out next year. I've been telling people next year is just gaming year.
It's either going to be the greatest. It's either going to be the greatest NASCAR game ever released on a console, or it's going to be the biggest disappointment of any game ever released on the console.
You can't get any worse than Ignition.
Yeah, I would agree. Basically, if they take iRacing and put it on the console as it is, and allow you to own multiple teams and stuff like that, that would be really, really cool. But yeah, speculation. Oh, by the way, for those of you that are college football fans, College Football 25 is up for pre-order. So man, you talk about it, and that comes out in July this year. So hey, at least we get a year with this before we have to play NASCAR.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that game being released. It's going to be interesting because it's going to be competing Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which is, Call of Duty is a huge fan base game, but I don't, and Black Ops on top of that is a huge franchise of Call of Duty that everyone loves. But I think, the college football game has been anticipated for so long, it's going to blow out Call of Duty in the charts. So
yeah, because Call of Duty has had games come out like every year, almost every other year, if not. It's been, I mean, I'm still playing College Football 2012 on the PlayStation 3, so I know they have had other ones out, but I like 12 because it was the last game to have the customizable conferences. So it's been a long time for us college football fans to get a new game. So I'm pumped. I'm amped up for that. I don't know how I'm going to be able to afford it, but I'm going to figure it out. Even if I have to sell some of your stuff to buy it.
Hey. No. But yeah. So
I mean, I could sell your dog to buy it.
No, don't sell my puppy dog. You wouldn't get much for him.
No, because he's old.
Yeah, but he's a sweet puppy dog. He still acts like a puppy even though he is old.
Right?
So.
Hey, he's just like us. Just remember, you don't stop playing because you grow old. You grow old because you stop pling.
All right.
And he still plays just like a puppy dog. So
yep, I would agree. I've got a Lego set, right? I'm looking at it right now. I've got Lightning McQueen here. Okay, I'm not old. I'm in my 20s and I still play with toys. Okay, it's okay. I don't call them toys though. I call them collectibles. All right. Remember that.
So if he ever tells you he brings home 6 figures a month, he's not talking about his paycheck. He's talking about his action figures, Transformers mainly.
Yes, Transformers. Because you can't. Really...
And when he tells you he's got a huge car collection, he's not talking about in the garage. He's talking about in the storage case.
Yep.
In the display case.
All NASCAR die-casts and a few other cars. So But yeah, that's gonna be it for part 1. So we hope you'll wait for part 2 for the race recap and some other stories along with the races. Um, let's just say we had a lovely fight night from the All-Star race that I look forward to
Hey,
talking about. What?
you know the rules. What happens in Fight Club? You don't talk about Fight Club.
Yeah. That is true. um, we're gonna talk about it anyway because NASCAR's been praising over it for some reason. But
Uh,
like I said, we'll get into that in part 2. So stay tuned for part 2. Um, do you want to save our shout outs for part 2 as well, or?
yeah, we'll do all that. We'll do all that like we normally do. This was just, I mean, this was news and important news that we needed to get out and discuss.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's have some fun.
Yeah. So stay tuned for part 2, and hopefully the internet will be a little bit better. So we'll see you in part 2. So peace out. Right on. God bless.